Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Kaplan, and this is a Sidebar conversation with Lawyers Weekly. Today, we'll be talking with Monique Burt Williams, the new CEO of Cadence Counsel. Cadence Counsel is the in-house division of Lateral Link and a certified women's business enterprise. Monique worked with a prominent boutique litigation firm in Minneapolis before moving into a role that allowed her to use her legal skills to address the unique needs of corporate law departments, including everything from legal operations and administration, playbook development, cost containment, diversity and inclusion, and perhaps most relevant during the pandemic, remote workforce management. And with that, hello, Monique, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Okay. So you were with a law firm initially, and then you transitioned into a legal staffing role in the legal staffing world. When did that happen?
That happened right around 2007, 2008.
So right when the legal recession hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, at that time, clients had an abundance of talent to choose from. Are there any parallels with our current state of affairs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's an abundance of talent available now in the legal space as well. So that's sort of in our space, it's sort of the most glaring parallel. But even though there are parallels to that time frame, I think there are more differences than there are similarities. I think the main difference, right, is that the recession sort of illuminated some deep-rooted economic weak spots for us, whereas now we're dealing with something that's external to the economy and is truly more widespread. But in that regard, the market is just rich with extremely experienced, seasoned, pedigreed legal professionals that need to be placed with corporations.
Okay. And with that said, you hadn't even been in your new role as CEO for a week before you introduced an intriguing idea for in-house legal departments and attorneys dealing with this new normal, with these economic realities of the pandemic. So talk to me a little bit about this new initiative that Cadence Counsel has launched.
So you're referring to the COVID-19 Bridge Program?
COVID Bridge Program, yes.
That's right. And so Cadence Counsel, together with its sister corporations, Lateral Link and Bridgeline Solutions, created this initiative to match in-house counsel with corporate law departments who could use the assistance during this time. So, we wanted to make sure that we were able to keep our contract attorneys gainfully employed while assisting in-house law departments with an enhanced or increased volume or workload. And we wanted to do so on a complementary basis while continuing to pay the attorneys. So that's the COVID-19 Bridge Program initiative, and it was a tremendous success.
So this is the contract attorneys that you actively recruited and pipelined for, were placed with these corporations for free for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll remember that, when the pandemic first hit and we were first sort of understanding some of the ramifications, the magic number was kind of 2 weeks, right? We thought if you were exposed, then you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, we would sort of revisit whether the country was going to reopen and that sort of thing. So that's where sort of the 2 weeks came from. And as we know, things have been extended, but we wanted to provide some level of relief both to our candidates and to our clients who were going through this period of uncertainty. And so that's what we were able to do.
Of course, it's a great idea. So these attorneys that you've worked with, you mentioned a talent-rich environment. Kind of talk to me a bit about the candidates who you've been working with to place in these corporations.
So the candidates that we've been working with really span the spectrum in terms of practice area and experience, but primarily we work with lawyers who went to top 10 law schools, who have AmLaw 200 experience and Fortune 500 experience, and so we've been able to utilize that caliber of talent in this program, and just the effects have been phenomenal. So yeah, we've been able to work with some really, really talented lawyers, some legal minds that have been just really very motivating to work with.
So we've got all this talent. Who are the clients? I mean, what industries are you working with? Is this a nationwide initiative?
Definitely a nationwide initiative. And as you can imagine, we've all been impacted by the coronavirus. And so every industry has been impacted by the coronavirus. So we, work with clients who are members of the Fortune 500. We've worked with energy companies and food manufacturers, software innovators, any sort of corporation that you can possibly think of has been affected. And so there are targets.
Okay, so it runs the gamut from manufacturing to sports. I love it. So what's the response been?
It's been overwhelming, just overwhelming to, you hear the numbers, you hear about the numbers of attorneys that have been furloughed or otherwise displaced, and you see the numbers in print, but until you really start hearing the stories and talking to people who have been personally impacted, you can't imagine just how devastating all of this has been on them. And so the response, both on the client side and the candidate side, has just been out of this world. And it's really just truly been an honor to be able to have these sorts of conversations and figure out how we can help.
So in your mind, either from a client or a talent perspective, this program sounds like it's been incredibly successful. What's your favorite story to date so far, with either a client story or a talent story?
That's a good question. I think my favorite candidate story was working with an attorney whose son just recently graduated virtually from high school. And right around the same time that he found out that he was accepted to the college of his dreams, she found out that she was being laid off. And so you can imagine the devastation. And so we were able to match her with a corporation. They're in talks to figure out how they can work together. And so we've just been able to give her family a slight glimmer of hope throughout all of this. And it doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, of course. So speaking of glimmers of hope, you've got the talent out there, you've got the clients out there, they're working together. Are you seeing that it's enabling the attorneys to perhaps work in a new practice area or develop their practice skills, or perhaps the clients are getting to know what is available out there, being introduced to some talent they might not have been before?
We're definitely seeing candidates expand their toolkits and really sort of dive into different practice areas that maybe they wouldn't have normally, investigated. I just had a call the other day with a candidate who's in the oil and gas industry, and she's really looking to reinvent herself. She wants to stick with the practice of law, obviously, but she wants to look at another industry. And this type of a program is, crafted for people to be able to provide maybe contracts review assistance in another industry, just so that they can sort of dip their foot in and see if it's something that they would like to pursue long term. So sure, we have definitely seen people sort of expand their knowledge base and their interest levels as a result of this program as well.
Fantastic. So with a program of this size and scope, with so many moving pieces and parts, with the clients, with the talent, there must have been some hurdles or some challenges or some obstacles, that presented themselves. So can you give us an example perhaps of how you managed to get this program up and running and how you overcame those challenges?
Sure. So, as you were talking, I was thinking the biggest challenge I think we had was sort of not knowing how to approach clients and candidates during a time that was so devastating for so many people and so new for so many people. You sort of don't want to be making a sales call or a pitch in any way during a time when people are just struggling to figure out how they're going to get through the next day. So part of the challenge was figuring out how to understand what our clients needed, what our candidates needed, how to get that information from them in a way that was going to be able to allow us to create a solution for them. So I think we sort of sat back for a little while, but then it was time to sort of get to work. And, I wish that we were able to, we would have been able to start this program even earlier than what we did so that we could have helped more people. But that's hindsight. We were able to help so many. And so we'll use that intelligence as we engineer solutions for future phases of the pandemic that we'll have to manage through as well.
Yeah, and none of us has a crystal ball, or none of us can predict the future. So what does your world look like in the next few months? Are there any other initiatives perhaps that Cadence Council is working on or in the planning stages?
So one of the things I want to make sure that Cadence Council focuses on is being client obsessed. And we just want to make sure that our world looks like the world of our clients. And so one of the things I ask myself all the time and tell myself all the time is, what's next is what's next. So one of the things I know for sure is that candidates are going to have to manage through the next few phases of the pandemic, reopening the states and figuring out what that looks like in an office setting, if you're going back to the office, or from a remote standpoint, if you're going to be keeping your workforces at home. Even though these are unprecedented waters for our industry, I don't think that we have to reinvent the wheel. There are business practices that can be applied to the reopening of corporate law departments, particularly in the space of change management. And so right now I'm in talks with some of the most talented change management consultants in the country, figuring out how we can craft a way forward for corporate law departments and to use those change management strategies as we navigate these uncharted waters. So more to come on that.
That's exciting. So I would love the opportunity to sit down in the next few months just to see, what's next up on the horizon with
That would be great.
Council and with you.
That would be wonderful. I'd
Absolutely.
love that.
All right. And with that, I'd like to say good day to Monique Burt-Williams, CEO of Cadence Council. And hopefully we'll be talking again real soon about the change management.
Thank you, Kelly. Be
Okay.
careful. Be well.
Be well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.